RevGEN. How's everybody doing? Welcome to Friday Town Hall, COVID style. So let's just get a little rundown of what's going on in everyone's markets. So let's start with Mr. Dan. You want to talk about what you see in New York City?
Sure. Yeah, let's start with New York City. So New York City is probably the most adversely affected market, I would guess, in the United States. It's certainly the worst market out of my markets that I work in. So you've had a lot of hotels just outright close. So for example, I have a Midtown property where probably a good 60% of its competitors have just completely closed until June or even later. So New York City, very hard hit. Basically, if you have somehow lucked out and you have some kind of essential travel, emergency business, then maybe you're doing okay. But aside from that, looking at the Star Report, most hotels are running single-digit occupancy, especially the larger hotels. So yeah, New York City is probably the hardest hit.
All right. Let's go across the country to the other coast. You got a bunch of California hotels. I think some are doing well, some are not. So let's talk San Francisco, which is a big convention city. Jackie, do you have any bullets?
Yeah, we looked at San Francisco and then also a little bit further outside to compare the markets. Kamani and I did. And we are starting to see a slight light at the end of the tunnel with occupancy, but still a really long way to go year over year. Depending on the business mix, the occupancy is seeing the biggest year over year loss, but at least ADR and dropping rate has stabilized. So obviously there's no events or conventions, and we're seeing a lot of further out conventions get canceled, even like into November with Salesforce, but at least no one else is rushing down their rates, and we've been able to maintain some regular ADR. And I would say like the winning occupancy has been very COVID related or extended stay related downtown.
So have any events rebooked yet or moved dates, or it's all postponed up in the air?
Pretty much all postponed or tentative October dates, if any, but most of them postponed or completely canceled. A lot of them stayed virtual.
Do you think that there's a lot of the big tech companies are saying like work from home indefinitely? Do you think these large conventions are done, at least for a few years, or do you think 2021 will be okay?
We all hope not, but I think if they were able to successfully have a good virtual convention this year, I could see a lot of them going pretty virtual or at least partially virtual next year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I know Facebook put out a lot of virtual work in the future for their employees.
So let's go to Dwiggins, because Dwiggins has a lot of California too, some near San Francisco, more like San Jose, but you also have some beach, right?
Yeah, got a couple of beach properties.
Seen any bright spots from beach?
Yeah, for sure. So property, a couple down south of the Bay Area are starting to see a lot more pickup. Still all leisure. I mean, there's generally no corporate or business travel, but it's for the most part all leisure, and we've been doing really well. Granted, we're this particular hotel is the only one operating in the Star Report right now, so we are doing well, but that's because of that reason. But definitely seeing a lot of pickup there. Memorial Weekend also doing really well, probably going to sell out this weekend, which would be fantastic to see for a beach hotel. And then I've got a couple in San Jose, or one in San Jose near downtown, and it's done really well with attracting the leisure market for sure. It's I talked to my GM, and he said when he checks in people, he hasn't had a single person yet with a zip code outside of the Bay Area check in the last 2 months. So it's all local business at this point. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But still looking a lot better.
All right. Rachel, you're California too, right? Or you
Yeah.
A few different markets, so
yeah.
Anything new from you?
Yeah, so kind of piggybacking off Wiggins are a little bit kind of near San Jose, but like Silicon Valley, kind of near Palo Alto, 4 different hotels, all limited service. I think just looking at the stats from like multiple star reports, several independent, several branded, but I think for the most part, at least unfortunately not necessarily my hotels, but more so in the markets, at least compared to the running 28, it's been up like 9%. So it does seem to be a little bit coming. And then I think it's just as far as segmentation is concerned, kind of like what Jackie was talking about, it's a lot of COVID related and, mostly medical, nurses, that kind of demographic coming to hotels, but also a lot of local, whether that's people trying to get out of their houses or also just like transient business.
Okay. And
yeah.
Before we leave California, Kamani, you have airport properties, right? What are they dead, or what are you seeing over there?
In the airport properties, they are seeing some business, like in the submarket, like Sacramento, Salinas, Santa Ana. We're averaging around like 40% occupancy, so maybe not as bad as San Francisco, but still seeing that occupancy drop. Most consistent with like local negotiated rates or truckers coming in. We are seeing some transit business too.
Cool. Sorry, back to Rachel. You have other markets too, right? Like the Carolinas or anything you want to talk about?
AJ and I both have Carolinas, and so they'll probably be able to tack on some of this too. But I'd say between Raleigh and Charlotte, probably both I'm seeing at least a 3% occupancy growth, at least from running 28. So it has been growing. Mine essentially is, segmentation wise, it's pretty much all logistics, those kind of contract business there, but it has been growing very slightly.
Don't you have a hotel attached to a conference center? An independent?
Not me.
Okay. All right. Guess not. All right, AJ.
Well, pretty much just
the Carolinas. And don't you have some like leisure-ish Carolinas?
Well, we still had, we got a couple of properties near the NASCAR Speedway, but with those events starting to, no fans allowed, it's not seeing much pickup overall, but they are starting to pick up later on in the year for different events and things of that nature. But for the most part, to piggyback off what Rachel said, we are seeing growth within the Charlotte market, even kind of going into the Raleigh area. But the biggest thing is we're starting to see is Monday through Wednesdays. That's where the spike is starting to come through. Where there is over the weekend, we're starting to see those staycations, especially like with Memorial Weekend. We've had great pickup going over within the last 3 days. And so, again, it's definitely booming and starting to pick up much better within the last 2 to 3 weeks consistently within the Charlotte and Raleigh area.
So like Monday to Wednesday, that's corporate, right? What kind of businesses?
A lot of crews, a lot of construction business, things of that nature. When I go through and drill down, I'm seeing where repairs, installation crews, things of that nature. And so a lot of, within that Monday to Wednesday, you're consistently seeing within that booking window, as I mentioned, to properties, same day within 4 to 5 days. That's where a lot of the action that I'm seeing within the area is developing from. And it's within that construction and crew business.
All right. Let's go up to Ohio with Chase. Go Buckeyes, right? Are you
Go
Buckeyes?
Bucks.
Okay.
I'm a Buckeye. Yeah. So Ohio actually was one of the first states to have the shelter-in-place orders. So it's taken a pretty big hit overall, at least with the markets that I work with. So I have kind of the Dayton, Beaver Creek area, and then also Mason, which is just outside of Cincinnati. And this time of year, like soccer, baseball tournaments are huge. In fact, I was just looking today, and back in 2019, this time of year, the group segment accounted for about 20% of total revenue. And so pretty much almost all of that's washed for 2020 at this point, and I don't think a lot of it's coming back for this year. So it's taken a big hit on the group side of things, and also Kings Island is currently closed. So the amusement park, you're not getting a lot of leisure business down the weekends. I heard that it might be opening in July potentially, so that might be good. And then also over in Beaver Creek, it's close to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And so that's really taken a big hit on the government travel as well. So both of those markets now, maybe Adam can speak on behalf of Cleveland, but that's just sort of how it's looking over in the southwest part of Ohio.
All right, Adam, you were called out. What's going on in Cleveland?
Yeah, getting
That's
called
an
out.
airport, right?
Yeah, it's near the airport there. Really suffered all of March, all of April, barely getting 10, 15 rooms at the most. But the last couple of weeks, there's been a little bit more air travel, more traffic going through the airports, more people driving as well. It's still predominantly all leisure as well, while every hotel in the market's fighting for anything they can. But there is some people staying overnight for flights and taking a shuttle to the airport. But yeah, it's predominantly all leisure still, but starting to see, I wish I could see the same 40% occupancy that Kamani was talking about, but more like closer to 20 on a good day right now.
All right. Let's go. Let's go like Louisiana country. That's an interesting state. We've got Derek and Braxton, right? Let's go Braxton. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, so I think we'll probably know more next week. This week, a lot of the speaking specifically about like Lake Charles area, a lot of the casinos opened up this week, even though it is at about 25% occupancy. So being Memorial Day, we'll probably know more about the transient segment. That's usually traditionally where we'll see that production is over the weekend and somewhat casino and leisure related. So we're going to keep an eye on it over this weekend and see if we see that start to pick up. Other than that, June and July, some of the group business that we had on the books is looking a little more solid. We've kind of been holding off on, being definite on that group business because we didn't know if some of these events would be held, but optimism seems to the way most of them are looking. So that's kind of what I've been taking away from that area, at least.
So most importantly, has the stash helped your client rapport on your revenue calls?
I'd have to say yes.
How could it not? How could it not?
You have other states too, right? Like you have Utah, anything else?
Yeah, one property in Utah near a national park, so those opened up and it's seen a little bit more of that related business, but still less than 50% occupancy for most upcoming days.
All right. Derek, anything to add Louisiana-wise, or what about Tennessee?
Yeah, Tennessee market right now, haven't seen a huge difference in our occupancy compared to April and May. Still kind of at that 20-25% mark throughout the week. Group business throughout June right now, seen some big cancellations as well. Kind of what Chase touched on as far as big tournaments coming in the area. We had a lot of sports tournaments coming in that June and beginning of July market. And right now we're seeing a lot of cancellations. Hopefully we'll see some rescheduling at the end of the summer, but right now it's just kind of up in the air. So not a huge difference from what we see in the Tennessee market.
Okay. Let's go to Robin. So Robin, you got some Florida, some Oklahoma, some New Mexico. What am I missing?
Colorado as well. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, well, Florida, like Central Florida area is still, same thing as a lot of markets are seeing, the sports tournaments being canceled, graduations, things like that we would normally see pickup from in late April, early May. We're seeing big declines because of that. And then just overall, like third-party bookings declining as well, with people not traveling for leisure, corporate demand down as well for Florida. And that's pretty consistent with Oklahoma City market as well. Although Oklahoma is starting to pick up much better, actually, pretty decent occupancy. So hopefully we'll see that increase as we move into June. And then Colorado's taken a really, really big hit, especially in the Boulder area, with the university going remote and graduation being canceled and other really big events going on there. So that one's still
running very, very low occupancy numbers. I know the state still has some pretty strict regulations in place as far as I know. So pretty much blanket year-over-year declines across the board for those markets.
What about your New Mexico hotels? Like they used to do pretty well from, is it rail or it's like projects? Is that business?
Yeah. They're starting to bounce back. I mean, they took a really big hit, both the Hobbs area and Clovis as well. So like Eastern New Mexico, with oil demand being down, but they're actually they've bounced back pretty quickly. So they're still pacing behind year over year, of course, but they're bouncing back a lot quicker than other markets I work with.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Chicago with Adam. What's Chicago looking like?
Not good. But no, most of the hotels have largely closed through much of June. I think that's going to be the case. The hotel I work with has extended their closure twice now. All the big conventions at the McCormick Center have pretty much canceled through the end of the year. The one positive I would say is Marathon is still going to take place in October, but they just kind of limited the number of runners. So I think it's like 25% of what it used to be. So that's still there. Lollapalooza canceled as well. That's towards the end of July. That was a bigger event, but it was really group heavy throughout the summer last year. And obviously we're not getting any of that this year. So we're starting to see maybe a little uptick in bookings for July and August, but roughly half of our comp set has closed and rates have been at the bottom for quite a while now. There's not much lower to go. So I think we're planning on reopening like July 4th weekend with hopefully some stronger transient demand. I think Chicago also was one of the cities that was kind of hit hard, like New York, in terms of COVID, and they still haven't reopened a lot of things. So that's part of the equation as well.
What other markets do you have?
You can throw Miami in there.
Oh yeah, okay.
Similar to what Adam Dwiggin said earlier about the beach destinations, I think that's kind of similar. Driving destinations like beaches, especially in Florida and California, we've started to see, especially this weekend with the long weekend, a lot more transient book in, and not just in May, but we're seeing really strong pickup over the last week or two for July and August across the board, along with some of the groups starting to come back towards the end of the summer.
Is the Miami beaches open?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, okay. All right, speaking of Miami, let's go to Liz. So you're from Miami. You don't have a hotel in Miami, right?
No.
No, but you might soon. But you have Fort Myers.
Yeah.
What's going on in Fort Myers?
Fort Myers right now, kind of similar to what Robin was saying, relies heavily on tournament and sports related business. For us, we're just waiting to see if these venues are going to open. Groups are hesitant about canceling because they're not sure whether or not the events are actually going to open or not. So holding off on that. But we've taken a huge hit in that leisure group segment because we don't really have anything going on. We switched over to CLC production. That has been a top producer for us for April and May. So hopefully hoping to see more CLC production in June. Fort Myers is not a heavy corporate market, so not a lot going on there. They don't historically see a ton, so really just hoping for group production to come back.
All right. How about everyone's seen the Tulsa or was it?
Tesla for Tulsa.
Tesla for Tulsa?
Yeah.
So you got a hotel in Tulsa or a couple? What's going on there?
Tulsa market is split pretty evenly between leisure demand through concerts through the BOK Center, which almost every single event has canceled this year, which has taken a big hit for my property. Corporate market, you know, we're still seeing the travel ban.
Uh-oh, we lost Liz. All right, we'll come back to Liz. I forgot to ask, before we bring it home to Dallas, I want to hear about, we have a lot of hotels, Alabama and Georgia area. So let's see, we got Jackie, Kamani. who else manages that area? Rachel, anyone want to?
Travis.
Jackie, you want to kick it off?
Sure. Yeah, we're looking at Auburn, and I think Robin kind of mentioned how Boulder College Town is affected, and definitely seeing it more in Auburn as well with the transient business. So if we're looking at our current business now, what's able to thrive is when those hotels have more of that crew weekday negotiated business. Without it, we're seeing a lot of occupancy loss year over year. Some of my hotels have taken the time now to do some renovations, so it worked out to be pretty good timing. Actually backed into when graduation was going to happen, but since that got moved, could be a winning situation if we can recover the revenue. So not too bad.
All right, let's bring it home to Dallas. So we got Jordan, Austin. Let's start with Austin.
Yeah, so a couple of markets out in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Grand Prairie is starting to see a resurgence. Extended stay properties there have been picking up nicely. Started at the beginning of the month close to 40%. We're hovering around 60% now, so about a 20% jump there. And then with more limited service properties, those are also doing a little bit better. Star Report comp set around 50-60%. So definitely seeing a nice bump there. We definitely bottomed out a little bit in the month of April, so it's nice to see a little bit of a rebound there. And then the Plano market is a big one that's definitely taken a big hit. Back in April, the comp set was running single-digit occupancy. We were lucky enough to be able to hit double-digit since the beginning. We've seen a big rebound on weekends, both in Plano and in Grand Prairie. Both those markets really seeing a lot of last-minute demand for weekends. And from what we see from the guests coming in, it's people wanting to get out of their house. So similar to what we were talking about some other markets previously, they just want to get out. They want to have a change of scenery. So retail production is really the big driver there. And weekdays, now the comp set is hovering around 11%. We're starting to hit that 25% mark. So we are seeing a little bit more of a rebound, really focusing in on some of those disaster relief medical channels to try to get some business there. And those have been really producing well for us. So those have been working well for sure.
And then you have a few different markets, right? Any others that you want to highlight?
Yeah. Quick, the Indianapolis market, I know Smith Travel just put out numbers there that the Central Business District was running about 3% occupancy market-wide. We're a little bit outside of there. We're lucky enough that we're able to stay in line with the comp set in our area. It's about 25% occupancy. It's nothing crazy right now, but CLC production out in the area is picking up really well still. That's always been a top producer for us, and it's down a little bit, as is everything at this point, but CLC continues to come in at least 20 rooms a night. So that's definitely been a nice boost for us as well in that Indianapolis market.
All right. What about you, Jordan?
Yeah, sorry, I have a couple of different Dallas kind of adjacent cities that I look at. So something I've noticed a lot is where there was a lot of oversaturation kind of product beforehand. I think when some properties were closed during the worst of it, and there was a lot more maintenance of occupancy. So now we're seeing more of a dip in the last couple of weeks and some pickup again now. So I would say most of them hover around 20 to 25% for most of the week, a little bit higher on the weekends, but more of actually a lot smaller booking window even than before. And definitely that 3 to 6 night stay is definitely growing, and not very dynamic rates overall.
All right. Any other markets that we didn't hit on that are interesting?
I've got a fun one. Out in Las Vegas right now, it kind of coincides with what Jordan just said there, is that we had our lowest kind of time period for, I think, the first 2 weeks in April. And that kind of coincided with a lot of the larger casino hotels closing. And as of like this last week, they actually pushed another week where a lot of casinos wound up missing, or those larger hotels wound up missing potential revenue opportunities for this Memorial Day weekend. And with them been closed over the past month, we've actually been able to see, especially if you're a smaller product, I think there's really a couple of independents and maybe very limited service branded hotels that are open right now. But more than likely, if you're able to stay open, you're probably seeing the compression that like we're seeing right now, and you're upwards of about 50% occupancy. And I think a majority of that is leisure, or it's people just in the area that are just trying to get out of their houses, just work out of hotels. And if you're really lucky and you have a pool that is even open right now, then it's a huge plus for you that we're actually expecting a really, really nice Memorial Day weekend. We could sell out.
Sweet. All right. Anybody else? Miss anything?
Not a market that's missed, but my Tennessee properties, unlike Derek's, I've been very successful with getting storm relief production. It's unfortunate that Chattanooga, Mount Juliet, Nashville area have been hit with several tornadoes in the last 2 months. So that's been an area where my hotels have been able to step in and maintain occupancy and helping get people displaced by natural disasters with their homes being damaged, and also construction business coming in and repairing schools and businesses that have been hurt. So my Chattanooga property has maintained 50% occupancy since January. So we actually haven't seen a dip in occupancy between pre-COVID, post-COVID. It's just been a change in ADR and trying to extend a friendly rate to people in need right now. So that's been interesting to watch.
Cool. Anybody else? Cool. Well, thanks for a good Friday roundup. Have a good Memorial Day weekend.
Happy
Thank you.
Thank you,
Everybody, guys.
Holla at you.